Today on the No City on the Sideline Dad podcast, episode 76. It's all about surviving the holidays. We're going to discuss this topic with my guest, Jonathan Yatsky, therapist and relationship expert, next on the podcast. Let's do this.
Welcome to the No Sitting on the Sideline Dad podcast, a podcast about a journey of discovery and conversations about not sitting on the sideline of life. Let's get involved. Here's host Joe Foley.
Welcome to the podcast. Hey, my name is Joe Foley. I'm a dad, parent, crazy, busy adult in this world. Especially this time of year, the holiday season. It's crazy, man. We go to one party, making cookies. The people who have the marathon cookies. Believe me, I've been a recipient of the cookies, and they've been really good. And I want to thank you for being here. And if you have any cookies, please send them my way. I love cookies. I know as a dad and a parent, our time's limited. So it means a lot. You two spend time listening means a lot, especially this time of year. And I hope I'm going to bring some value to your life. This interview, we're going to up next, helpful because it's just as the holidays are also brings a lot of joy, it also brings a lot of stress. I mean, we got a whack. You know what I mean? Like when you're wrapping presents till midnight, and then you got to get up the morning at 6, or, prepping food for the next day, getting family rise early. And just everything's crazy busy. It's supposed to be a time of joy, reconnecting with people. Remember the loved ones are not here. Because time goes by, things happen and stuff like that. And it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So my guest, Jonathan Yatsky, she has a lot of good tips about surviving the holidays. So let's jump right into the interview. Welcome to the podcast, Jonathan.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
You're like my second person coming back for the second time. I mean, it's an honor to have you back. It means you had a good time the first time.
Yeah, I loved it.
I really appreciate coming back. I know today we're going to talk about a little bit about how to survive the holidays. But what is one memory you have of the holidays as a kid? Can you give me an example of a tradition, something you remember it makes you feel good about the holidays?
Well, one of the biggest holidays that I have tradition-wise is making a lot of food. So in my family, food was pretty central to the holidays. So we used to go and visit some, my grandmother in particular. She was, this very short woman, but she was tiny but fierce in the kitchen, and she would create all these wonderful recipes. And so it was nice to always sit down with family. And so now, being older and, having family come to me, I usually spend 2 to 3 days cooking and making desserts and different, meats and, fun little recipes that I find on the internet. And then, just spend the whole time with family cooking and playing board games. And so in particular, a couple of years ago, right when I was getting my first year out of college, I found that I I had the whole family come down to me, and it was my first time hosting, and it was just really great because I got to spend all the time, prepping and making a wonderful meal for the people I love the most, and that to me just is so much fun.
Well, it's fun. I mean, for me, it's I have family for one, Seton family, because out of the years, things happen. But one of the traditions I like is watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade right before during Thanksgiving. Kind of kicks off the holiday season for me. And then I go, oh man, the stress of buying things and gift giving and stuff. But it's always the fun parts of the tradition of the parades and tree lighting and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, watching the decorations go up and that festive time of year, the air just seems a little different because people are nicer to each other and the lights are so bright, and it's just great. Yeah.
Well, we also sometimes in the store can be like you're like a linebacker or a running back trying to get the gift, and you're throwing stiff bombs every which direction and trying to get to the gifts and stuff like that. And people can be really nice, but they can be really mean this time of year.
Oh yeah. That I will say that is a tradition, is that we tend to avoid Black Friday rush. We're just like, nope, we can stay inside and relax, play some board games, and just chill.
Well, one thing we're talking about today is how to survive the holidays. You mentioned, what are some tips and ideas of help survive the holidays?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the biggest things that I encounter as my work in my therapy practice is that the holidays can be wonderful for people, but they can also be extremely stressful. And that extremely stressful situation usually occurs at the start of Thanksgiving and usually goes through New Year's, sometimes
Hmm.
even Easter, though. And what really happens is when we go and we engage with family, oftentimes we get sucked into old patterns and ways of being that don't necessarily work for us. So one of the biggest ones that I know really frustrates people is when they go and see their, let's say, their parents.
Hmm.
They get sucked back into what it's like to be a child, right? And so unconsciously, they start to listen to what their parents have to say, or their siblings start to press those buttons that they installed many years ago. And so while today they might be a really powerful, strong individual in their life, they kind of go back and regress back to a childhood mentality of dealing with those people. And that can often lead to upsets. It can lead to turmoil. It can lead to shouting matches. And there's just no reason for that if we can find ways to avoid it. So, what I've done is find some ways to help people get above the holiday season so that they can still enjoy it with their friends and family, but also survive as well.
Well, I can always have that conversation with your parents and stuff like that. Oh, why have you done this? Why are you living there? Where are you going there? Having those really, but that negativity that can really be hard, that can really be tough on people.
Absolutely. Especially nowadays, one of the biggest comments I hear from people who are, of the younger generation is like, what are you doing with your life? Right? Why haven't you found a job or a girlfriend or, and even people up into their 30s and 40s still hear this if their parents are so opinionated about it. And so that negativity can really seep in. And if not dealt with, it will kind of like bad food fester over time. And the more it's not dealt with, the harsher and harsher it gets. I had someone recently that I was talking to who went to a Thanksgiving Day party.
Hmm.
They went and they had a really good time, but they got triggered by something that, someone around them had said. And instead of dealing with it, what they did is they held on to those emotions. And then when they took them back home, when they were safe with their friends and family and children, that's when they unleashed because they couldn't unleash in front of their boss or in front of, someone who is going to look down or look at them poorly. They unleashed on the people who they knew were quote unquote safe and thus made more upsets than needed. It was kind of like taking a doggy bag home full of negative emotions to open up and share with the whole family.
What is it better? Like sometimes, well, sometimes is it better to avoid that conversation or be open with that person? Say, listen, enough. We're trying to enjoy the holidays. We set boundaries.
Mhm. So the best way to really figure that out, because both options are valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes having the conversation is really important. And sometimes just going, you know what, I'm going to avoid this stimulus because that person over there is not going to listen, right? They're not going to change or shift their point of view. And so I'm just going to be hitting my head against a brick wall trying to change something that just isn't going to change. So what I tell people to do is to look for blue pens.
Okay.
So the way to think about this is if I pick up a blue pen and I were to show it to you, right? You would probably assume that that pen would write in blue.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wrote and it wrote blue, you probably wouldn't be shocked by that. But we actually, with the people in our lives, we know who they are. We know the triggers, the thoughts, the way they think. We've been around them for long enough that we probably have had enough experience to know that this person, when let's say politics come up, or
Yeah.
let's say the holidays and gift giving come up, like they have strong opinions. And if I press that particular button, I'm going to get a response that is going to be one I've gotten many times before. And so, if before I go to that holiday party, whether it be with friends, family, coworkers, if I could recognize the blue pens in my life and recognize, you know what, Aunt so and so, she's wonderful, but don't talk to her about politics, right? Because she's just never going to go anywhere with it, right? It's going to be a huge, drawn out fight. It's like, you know what? Maybe what I will do is I'll have a wonderful conversation about family and work. But when it starts to go into that, choppy waters, I'm going to go, okay, you know what? I'm going to step back from this and maybe take it easy on that conversation. And if those people can, again, knowing who they are, knowing their patterns and ways in which they can react, if I know that they can have a reasonable conversation, then yeah, it might be a good idea to have a conversation because they might not even know that they're triggering you when they're triggering you.
Well, it's also funny too. Another thing about holiday season is gift giving. Stressing out about
Yes.
gift giving
Mhm.
and feeling guilty didn't do enough. And How does somebody would deal with that? Because so I think honestly, somebody should think in moderation, or should they? What would they do about that?
Okay. If you think about gift giving, right, and the
Mhm.
act of, you know, uh, giving from one person to another, oftentimes it's usually something that you go, you know what, I think this person would really, really like this. And so, especially if you're, in a family where maybe money is tight, or maybe you don't want to spend as so much because there are bills to pay, mouths to feed, things to do,
Hmm.
one of the things to look at would be, okay, what would be something I could give from the heart that isn't necessarily just going to be like an item?
Hmm.
Maybe it's something we can do. Maybe it's an event we can go to, or something that we could all have a wonderful time participating in. Because then what happens is you're going to be doing what I would call making a wise choice versus a fun choice. Oftentimes, a fun choice is one where it's like, yeah, in the moment, this seems wonderful. I love this idea. But then later down the line, you might see, you know what, maybe not the best choice I could have made. And so, to balance that, and if you really have a worry about it, to communicate with the people in your life and say, you know what, um, right now, whether it's because money's tight, or I don't feel like I can spend as much as I'd like, I'm looking to maybe cut back on gift giving this year and just see if we can find something that would be special for us from a heart to heart place. Sometimes that's a good book, or that's something that is a nice meal, like I mentioned before. Because that's another way of showing your love, which isn't just from a monetary place. It's spending time, and not just uh, quantity, but quality.
Relationships matter. Relations always matter. The matter this
Absolutely.
time of year, it means more than gifts. So too, sometimes our routines go out of whack, and like because we're up late for parties, Christmas time traveling.
Mhm.
What do you think about keeping a routine?
Yeah, routines are important, especially if it's not just you, right? If it's the whole family, because your routines matter. Let's say if you're spending a lot of time doing the parties and going out late and having those like Yuletide caroling fests down, whether it's at the bar or the corner or the church, wherever. The thing is that if you don't have a steady structure that's going to be enough self-care to help you get through the holidays, cracks are going to start to form. And as I mentioned before, it isn't going to show up at work, or in a place where we have to be on our game all the time. It's going to show up in the little things, like with our family and friends, especially those with little ones, right? If, let's say, they're so excited to come in and wake you up in the morning, and you spent until 3 in the morning out with friends and at the party and whatnot. Well, then when they wake you up at 6, because let's face it, that was me when I was young, waking up so early, it's like, what are you doing? But if that happens, then you've only had 3 hours of sleep, which means that, one, you've not had enough time to get the proper amount of rest. Two, you're probably going to react poorly and badly because your emotional spark is going to be so high. And so you got to make sure to, again, look for the wise choice and the fun choice. It's like, yeah, it's a holiday party. Maybe stay until 11 o'clock at night. But then make sure to go home because you have a long day tomorrow. You want to spend the time with your kids, and you don't want to be so high strung from no sleep or from drinking too much or eating too much that it ruins your time.
Well, I mean, family is important, and it get out of the whack though. I know of me with a couple hours sleep, I know my attitude is not great.
Mine too.
So I know the importance of sleep and getting the right amount of sleep because we're busy. This time of year is hectic. I mean, it's a hectic time of year out there, especially in the stores and stuff. And people go on their baking cookie marathons, and
Hmm.
it's interesting time of year. What also too is some people who are going through tough times and being alone.
Hmm.
How is it important to people to reach out and connect with people this time of year?
Hmm. Well, as we said, the holidays can be a wonderful time of connection with those around us. And oftentimes, while it may feel good for us because maybe we have a family that's close to us or friends that are close to us, there are definitely some people who maybe spend some of these holidays alone, right? Thanksgiving, which is usually the time of giving thanks, if spent alone, can be really tough for some people. Christmas, Hanukkah, those times too, New Year's. And so if you have someone like that, again, looking at, what their patterns are like, what they've been like in the last couple of years, maybe the struggles that they've been going through, by being someone who reaches out and compassionately says, you know what, hey, I know things have been really tough, but why don't you come and spend it with us, right? Or let's even just go out and get lunch, right? Or dinner, go for a nice walk in the park, right? Reestablish those connections can actually help people not only reconnect, but make them feel that spirit of the holidays, which is usually so important to people. It's a reason why this is, the most wonderful time of the year is because, that special air is in the air. And if we can take a step out of our comfort zone, a step into something that is more compassionate, more open-minded, we might actually see that there are opportunities to make magic for people all around.
That's true. Is it also one thing I was thinking about too? I mean, going around all the stuff you're doing, busy, 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 busy. Is it time to give yourself a break though? Take a break, breather.
Mhm.
Is it important?
Oh yeah, self-care is extremely important. If you find that you're running around, as we mentioned before, if
Mm-hmm.
you're going down to all the parties or trying to see every single person, that means that you may be spending a large quantity of time, but not a lot of quality of time. And that includes yourself too, right? If you burn out, right, which means that like you've experienced so much that emotionally you're just too tired or mentally too tired,
Huh.
you need to take that day off. And that day is important. And the most important thing to consider with it is that you match not just your self-care, but with what you're experiencing in your life. So let's say if you hit your limit, right? And that it was the last straw and it broke the camel's back and now you're angry. Well, if you go and let's say try and listen to happy music or watch a sad movie, it's probably not going to relate well to the anger you're experiencing. So
Mm-hmm.
you need to recognize and acknowledge in yourself, you know what? What is this emotion I'm feeling? I'm really angry. Okay. Well, I need to find a way to get past that because that's not going to help me have a good holiday and it's not going to help me relate well to others. And so, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, I'm going to put on some heavy metal music, right? Or something I can yell to in my car. And I'm just going to shout and say all the things that I've been holding back that I need to say to those around me, but just in that confined space where no one's going to hear. And if that doesn't work, right? Go take your bed, pile up all your pillows, make sure no one's in it. That's crucial, right? And then just, beat the snot out of your pillows. Because then what you're doing is you're actually allowing that energy to leave you and be able to go into something that's not going to hurt anyone else. It's not going to be an explosion that is going to cause a huge fight where you might say something you regret. You're taking your energy out and you're expressing it in a way that's useful. Breaking sticks is another really good one, or exercising, right? Being like, you know what? I need to go for a run, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that could be a couple hours, it could be a day, it could be just a long weekend where you're just like, you know what? I need some time to recalibrate me because if I don't take care of myself, then it's going to be really hard for me to take care of others.
Well, it's another thing I think about too. Is it okay to say no? No,
Mhm.
I can't go to this party. No, the word no.
Yeah. But we have an aversion to saying no for some reason. And no is actually a really important word to say because sometimes by saying no to others, we're saying yes to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about no, right? Especially let's say you're going out partying with people who maybe party a little too hard and then the next day you always regret it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Looking for those patterns that constantly occur. If you can go, you know what? The last couple of years we've gone out, I've been so hungover after our funs in the evening that I just I don't want to do it. Right? It doesn't make me fun to be around. It hurts my family and friends because I get irritable and angry. And so, no, right? If you guys want to do something else, that's fine. And that's a crucial component of it too. If you say no, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
let's say there's something that you don't want to do, maybe suggest something else, right? No, I don't want to go out drinking all night. But if you guys want to come over and maybe watch the game together and have like a potluck and then be done by around 11, I'd be totally down. Uh, and that's being solution focused, not problem focused, right? Because from a problem focused perspective, you're only going to find more problems. But if you have those solutions there, and you're not just saying no, but you're saying no, and here's something that I'm suggesting, you're being part of a solution that can help not only yourself but others feel a little bit better.
I just thought we'll change this a little bit. I think it's something kind of fun to talk about since we're talking about the holidays.
Mhm.
What is your favorite Christmas movie?
My favorite Christmas movie? Well, I like Nightmare Before Christmas, although that is apparently not a Christmas movie. I think it has the feels in there. But I think if I was going to give you a real Christmas movie that people were not going to debate me on, I always like the It's a Wonderful Life.
That's mine too, actually.
Because it's a beautiful movie and it really paints the picture of, you know what? The impact that we as human beings make in each other's life.
Hmm.
And if we stopped looking for a moment over there,
Hmm.
right, at what could have, should have, or, like will be in the future, instead just embrace what we have now, I think again you'll find that there's not just holiday magic, but magic throughout the year that can happen when you simply are grateful and looking for how can I make this moment right here the best it can possibly be for not just myself, but for the people around me.
I couldn't say any better than that, Jonathan. Really, I mean, that's the best way I can think of it, because that movie. Well, that movie to me is just like family.
Hmm.
What is it like not being here if I was never been born before?
Right.
And it's a great movie. It's a great Christmas movie. I can watch it over and over again. And because nowadays I come up with all the sappy movies and stuff, but
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, how many times can the guy fall in with a girl and the girl has a tragedy and all of a sudden Christmas comes around? I mean, they
Right.
are great. They're great stories, but they get all of them are pretty much the same if you look at them, like on the Hallmark Channel.
Oh yeah. Well, and another great thing about It's a Wonderful Life, and this is something that I tell people all the time, is to find a way to emotionally recalibrate yourself and
Hmm.
to release the emotional spark. Like when we get emotions, they're strong, they're hot, they're heated, right? It's that feeling when you feel like you're about to cry, that stinging in your eyes or the heat in your chest when you get angry. And by watching a movie, because I don't know about you, but for me, that
Hmm.
movie oftentimes makes me cry. And that can be extremely powerful because we might be holding back other things, that this is a cathartic move for us to be able to recalibrate, to let go of some of the things we've been holding on throughout the year and actually be able to show our emotions in a powerful way that not only allow us to sort of let go of the pain, the upset, the trauma, the things that have come up during the year or during the holidays, but it also allows for the connection to others, because then I'm able to go back to a space, as we see in the movie, right, of
Hmm.
gratitude.
And gratitude that's an important word to be grateful for what you have because the circumstances could be different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, so many people are looking so forward to the future, right? And that's not to say that we shouldn't do that, but we should also be grateful for what we have now. Because, for many of us, right, even though we may not have jobs that we like, we have something that helps us put food on the table, right? Helps us keep a roof over our head, heat in our heaters, especially in the cold. And we have family and friends who love and care about us. So, as dark as it can get, to remember that we still have those things no matter what, and to rely on them for not only strength, but solace in times when it may look dark.
Well, wrapping up, I guess one thing I will be if you give me like one or two tips on wrapping up, like for final thoughts and how persons can survive the holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the tips that I tell people, and you can actually find this on my website, is a holiday bingo card,
Hmm.
which is a blank bingo sheet. And normally, where there'd be numbers, what you can do is actually write in some of the things that trigger you, and you put them on the sheet. And this is before you go, because then what you're doing is you're able to recognize the blue pens. You're able to see what triggers you specifically. So you're already doing the work of recalibrating yourself. But then when they do it, it's not a shock. It's
Hmm.
not like, oh my God, I can't believe that someone did this like thing that they've been doing for the last 25 years. It's like, oh, right, they've been doing it for the last 25 years. I'm not going to get blindsided because that blue pen ultimately writes in blue.
Hmm.
So by filling out the bingo sheet, you're able to get clarity, and because you've turned it into a game, you're able to separate yourself slightly from the trigger, and so that's super useful. The second thing that I would keep in mind is that no matter what, even if they trigger you, you are always the most powerful influence in your own life. And so, therefore, you control your reaction to things. And if you think of like a pendulum, right,
Hmm.
that swings really far left and right, well, if let's say they're riling you up, they're pressing those buttons that they've installed since childhood, right? And they're just, getting that pendulum a little higher, a little higher, a little higher, and then they let it go, right? With a huge upsetting thing that they say. If you take the bait and you allow that pendulum to swing on your side of the equation really far and you have a huge explosive response, then they're actually in control of you and they're controlling your response. If instead what you do is they try and swing really far and then you stop it before it gets too far, you recognize and are able to control your own response to something, you'll stop it before it gets too harsh, before the big fight comes out. And one of the things you could say is, listen, you know what? Right now, I know we disagree on this, but I would really love for us to be able to put that aside for right now and just have a nice holiday. If you want to talk about that at some other time, let's do that. Let's set up a time to do that. But right now, I don't want to get into this upsetting conversation. And what it does is, even if they're still heightened, right, and they're pulling that pendulum back to swing it really hard your direction, if you keep stopping it, eventually they're going to de-escalate because they're not getting a response that they want. And in that way, you have a lot of power to be not just solution focused, but to be able to control and regulate your own emotions, your own thoughts and feelings. And this can be useful whether you're an adult, whether you're a child, whether you're a grandparent, because those triggers are there. When family comes up, as my favorite author would say, that's when familial dementia strikes, and we forget all the important tools we remember and we've been fighting for. And so make sure to, get out of that pattern and make it more conscious, not unconscious.
Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for being on the podcast today. The work, they can find your website at jonathanyates.com.
Yeah, so you can find me at my website, jonathanyatsky.com. Also find me at unlockingme.com, which is a seminar that I run with a bunch of different things that we do. I have a 3-day-long seminar actually coming up soon, which is taking these tools and doing an entire weekend of them to take your life to the next level, and that's called The Course. And I also do Facebook Lives on, you can look up my name, Jonathan Yatsky, Yatsky. On Facebook, and I do a Facebook Live every Thursday evening where we talk about tools, tricks, and tips to help you live a healthier and happier life. And so people write in and I answer their questions and just try and help as many people as I can that way too.
Well, John, thank you very much for being on the podcast. I really do appreciate all this. All the links will be in the show notes. And I really do appreciate you. Have a happy holiday.
You too. Thanks so much for having me again.
Wrapping up the episode, I want to thank you to Jonathan for being a guest on the podcast. You can find more about Jonathan over at unlockingme.com. Hey, also when you're over there, check out his upcoming course to help transfer your life. And the course is called Your Best Life is Calling. It's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's always nice to try to figure stuff out because sometimes we need help. I mean, or somebody guide us or give us an idea for going a different direction. Go ahead and when you have a second, check out his new course over at unlockingme.com. You can find all the show notes and links to this episode at nosittingonthesideline.com/76. Hey, please reach out and leave a comment. And then, if you have a question, hey, I got an idea. I like Christmas movies. I think when we talked about in this episode, we talked about Wonderful Life. But I also like, how about Die Hard? I know that's not really a Christmas movie, but it seems to be. Because it happens at Christmas, but it's a cult classic. Or The Christmas Story. You're gonna shoot your eye out. Or when you stick your tongue against the cold post. Can't get it. That's funny, actually. I like when the dogs run out the house with the turkey and they have the Chinese food restaurant. But my question is, what is your favorite movie Christmas time? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear it. You can find all my contact information at nosittingonthesideline.com/contact. Final thoughts. Surviving the holiday can more than just be surviving. It's a kind of a bad word for it. It's a time to reconnect with friends and family. Because at the end, that's really important. It's more than just gifts. Or it's more about spending time. It's more about having a big turkey on the table. It's more about spending time. Because time goes by, things change. People move on. Connections are more valuable. That's the really true meaning of Christmas. And I want to wish you a happy holidays and Merry Christmas from me and Sean. Until next time, take care. God bless. Give your kids a hug. Tell them how much you love them. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe to the newsletter to receive updates of the show and helpful and useful tips. This has been a production of Foley 42 Media.